conducting business is this. The petitioner brings each item and we ask them to come forward, state your name, and present your request. Please speak into the microphone in the center of the room. This allows us to record the meeting so that it's easier to get proper minutes. The board will ask any questions they have, and then anyone speaking to the proposal from the audience will be asked to come forward. Each side will have 10 minutes to speak. Once your request is heard and the board's decision is rendered, you may leave the meeting. However, if you have questions for staff, please wait until after the meeting is over, or you may contact staff at the office the following day. Once public testimony and discussion for a particular item has concluded, the members of the board will deliberate and render a decision. Members with a personal or financial interest in any request are required to recuse themselves from voting. All decisions by the Architectural Review Board are final. Any aggrieved parties may appeal the decision to the City Council within 15 days. Petitioners may also appeal the board's decision to Circuit Court within 30 days. We have a full roster of people here today, so there should be plenty of people available to make every decision. I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce our board meetings. First, we have a new board member, Jeremy Kelly. Jeremy, would you tell us a few words about yourself?
Yeah, well, my name is Jeremy Kelly. I'm the founding president and qualifying broker of Kelly Realty. And I'm really just excited to be a part of this board. I'm ecstatic and I'm looking forward to learning a lot and contributing. So,
thank you. Our other board members are, if you'll raise your hand, Cedric Kelly, Elizabeth Campbell, I'm sorry. I had Kelly on the brain. Barrett Penny, Jeremy Kelly, John Hayden, John Fauci, David Payne, and Katie Williams. Our staff is Christy Anderson and Paula Richardson. And our tree people are not here today.
We have no tree issues. They went home.
So they went home. Good for them. All right.
We can make some.
The minutes were mailed out, and I hope everyone has had a chance to review them. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Good.
Christy, do we need to have any public discussion about 3179 Norman Bridge Road?
We will do that at the end.
All right. The first petitioner is Eric Batres, 1265 South Lawrence Street. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Present your case.
Basically, I purchased a home, and actually it was about 2 months ago that I actually gained legal ownership of it. Had a few little problems with the title work, and I would like to, the plan is just to kind of run through the house, just going to clean it up, not going to make any alterations whatsoever to the structure itself, to any details. I'm going to keep the same roofing in the front of the home, of the main structure. Obviously, as you can tell with the pictures, if you guys have reviewed it, I mean, the house has been let go for many years, so it does need quite a good bit of repair. But as far as doing any kind of alterations, there is no plan to. There's one member there in the front that's missing, that's going to need to be repaired or I guess manufactured. Architectural detail on the left side of the right gable that's missing completely. But as far as I can tell, the rest of the house has got it, all the details still intact. That building there in the back is a duplex. The left side is a 2-story apartment, and the right side is a 1-story apartment. It's got a garage underneath it. And that is one of the things that I'm requesting to make a change of, which is the roof. Not going to change the roof line whatsoever, but I would like to use a metal roof instead of a shingle. That's what's there. It's just like I guess it's weatherwood colored asphalt shingle, and I would like to go back with the 5V brushed. Forgot the name of it. Off the top of my head.
Burnished slate.
Burnished slate.
And I had a sample in my purse last month, and I don't have it this month, but it's the color you all have looked at and approved. It's a dark brown color.
So that's the one alteration to that to the rear building. And again, I'm not planning on doing any kind of alterations to the structure itself. Just going to make any necessary repairs to the structure and make it livable and beautiful again, so it's not an eyesore to the neighborhood. As far as the fence, there is an existing fence line. Most of the posts are still there, but they're overgrown with weeds, and you can't really see it. But the line is still there, and on the front, there's still a privacy fence that goes between my house or that house and the house next door to it. So my plan is just to add a privacy fence from the existing front fence all the way back to the end of the property line. And I do want to use I think on the drawings that you guys have, want to use something a little bit different as far as the style, and it's really on the side of safety, because it'll let air move through if there's a high wind or whatnot. It's just a little bit, it allows more air to pass through, so it's a little bit safer of a fence for high wind conditions. So that's kind of, and it looks nicer as well. So that's the one thing that I would like to add to the exterior. Not going to cut any trees down. We are going to cut limbs, just kind of touch everything up, make it look nicer. We have a lot of limbs that are touching the roof that need to come down. But as far as cutting down anything major, we're just going to trim everything up.
Any discussion from the board?
I have a question. What does the new fence look like? Is there an actual photograph of what the new fence looks like, or a detail, or something?
Of the fence that I'm proposing to put up, I think that I added, there should be a picture of the detail. Basically, it's got one on the front side of the 4x4, and then with a space, and then the two would be on the back, so they're alternate.
Like that shadow line sort of fence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And it's exactly the same fence that's behind that house.
Okay.
So it would match the house behind it.
So it's a 6-foot wood shadow line fence with like the dog ears, like
Yes,
the
ma'am.
1x6s, and
Yes.
one's on
ma'am.
this
They
side,
just-
one's on this
So you
side.
get a shadow difference.
Okay,
between the-
we didn't see a detail of that. Also,
Oh, hang on, sorry.
what is the square foot of that building in the back of the house?
Okay, the square footage, the total, it's it's 2-story. Now, I don't know if you guys would consider the garage or the storage unit, but livable space, if I recall, the 2-story is around 500 square feet, and then the 1-story is around 600.
I certainly don't have any problem with you repairing this house. I did want you to know that it looks, I overlooked that yard for many years, although it's been a good time ago. And there are windows that are replaced in this house that were replaced without board approval, and they would not have been approved. So I would say be careful and talk with Christy if you're going to replace in kind, to make sure that your in kind is actually that. And your front windows had mutton bars. The ones on that little porch that were sticking out were made to look like casement windows. And the other one was a regular, on the back part, on the recessed part of the porch was, a 6/1 or something like that. I'm not sure I remember. Maybe it was a 6/6. But where it comes to your windows, don't fall off a cliff here in your desire to really fix this house up and have it be nice, talk with Christy about your windows if something needs to be replaced.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the audience to speak to this project? If so, if not, may I have a motion?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Everyone looks forward to having this house fixed.
Well, I look forward to it. I'll do the best to make it,
All
make you
right.
guys proud. Thank you.
All right. All right, the second project tonight is Philip Cameron from Old Cloverdale, Felder Avenue. Philip?
This is the second month that Mr. Cameron has not appeared. We will let him know he needs to reapply if he wants, unless he comes in before the end of the
Okay.
meeting, and
Okay.
we'll put him at the end.
Will someone please let me know if he comes in late? Next, VWG Properties, 428 South Florence.
Good evening.
I started asking one.
Tell me about your windows.
Okay. My name's
we-
Richard. My name's Richard White. It's our law firm, and we are wanting to do a lot of work to it, but the windows are really, really bad repair, and we want to replace the windows of the building and obviously try to make it look nicer and hopefully do it within the confines of what y'all request. If I answered your question, I'm first time I've ever done this, so I apologize.
Okay, that's all right. So the windows that you're requesting are a vinyl window? Is that correct?
If that's what was given to y'all, yes, ma'am, I don't have any reason not to dispute that.
Okay. And install a plain steel porch railing? No, I'm on the wrong one.
It's a cellular PVC window, which is really not a vinyl window.
Okay,
And I think we have a picture of it.
we do. My problem with this, my personal problem with this, I do have some ideas, is that this is not a good replacement for these windows.
Okay,
The proportion of the rail, the side pieces on the window, and the bottom and top of the sash are much larger than the original window is. And a replacement window really does need to come closer to matching what the existing window is.
okay.
Which windows are you talking about replacing?
Well, I think we're gonna do all of them eventually.
Okay,
I mean, our goal is to do a lot of work to it, but to answer your question, I hope to replace all the windows. The back part of the house, to my understanding, was added on at some point. The first two offices, I believe, were moved from wherever up to South Lawrence Street. But yes, ma'am, I assume our goal is to do all of them, and we've already done some work to the house, but,
I say that you've replaced some rotten wood here.
I guess.
I got a photograph that shows that.
Okay.
Any other discussion of the window type from the board?
Well, I don't disagree with your comment, Elizabeth. And I have specified EnviroGuard windows before, and that window does look a little unusual, but I sure thought I had seen windows that had the vertical style and the horizontal style, top style be the same width. But I could be wrong, but it is a little bit peculiar looking, and EnviroGuard makes more than one kind of window. Are you talking with folks at Southern Sash?
Yes, sir.
on this?
I believe our office manager is. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I have not personally.
The window guy down there ought to be able to offer you some alternatives here, maybe. I mean, that could be a more equal style and rail. The top one is the one that looks so peculiar to me. The bottom one is you kind of expect sometimes the bottom rail to be a little bit thicker.
Well, your proportion of glass to the side of the window ought to be the same on a new window as it is on the old window.
Okay.
And what they've shown is definitely not. My preference would be that you would restore the windows that are on the front part of the house.
On the what? I'm sorry.
On the original part of the house,
Yeah.
not on the addition, and then find a better replacement window for the ones on the back. Everybody's always concerned about energy efficiency, but a wood window with a good storm window is better than putting double pane glass in something because you get a bigger airspace. So it's not that these windows can't be fixed, but and be energy efficient for you. But the back windows, may well be not historic windows anyway.
Well, Madam Chairman, I would offer an alternative opinion there.
All right.
Those windows looking pretty sad shape to me.
The ones in the back especially do. The ones in the front don't look so bad.
Are you talking about the front ones that face South Lawrence or the ones that face the
The ones
parking
on
lot?
on the original two-story, the raised cottage-looking part of the house.
Right. No, I understand that, but my question is,
And those that are under the porch.
okay, if I can finish, please.
Okay.
The windows on the original part, we have some that face South Lawrence. We have some that faced Hill Carter's parking lot.
Right.
And a State Farm agency.
Right.
My question to you is, are you speaking about the ones that face South Lawrence or the ones that face South Lawrence, Hill Carter, and State Farm agency? Which are all part of the front raised building, as you call it.
I would say all of those windows,
Okay.
but not the ones on the lower roof
Yes, ma'am.
addition that's on the back of the building.
Yes, ma'am. So, just so I'm clear,
Okay.
and I'm sorry, I've never
That's
done
all
this.
right.
Talk in front of juries all the time, but I've never done this, and obviously I don't know what I'm talking about a whole lot.
Juries usually have a vote,
Yeah,
and
they just don't ask questions, so
they do have to be unanimous.
witnesses do.
But this board does not have to be unanimous. And so you could consider a cellular window. We have approved cellular windows before.
Yes, sir.
And if you can find one that it maybe looks a little bit more in keeping with the existing window.
Okay.
Some of us on the board at least would be willing to approve that.
Yes, sir. And when you say that, are you talking about the original part of the house and the whole house, or just the back
Are
part?
all of the windows not the same sash? They look like they are to me.
They're different sizes. The ones on the front part of the building are taller than the ones on the back.
Yeah, I think the
But they are all the same kind of sash.
But yeah, the sashes all look to be pretty uniform.
Yes,
as
sir.
far as the width and
Design,
styles
yeah.
and the
Okay.
rails.
yes, sir.
So, Bobby Service, you know Bobby Service?
I do not.
He's the window man at Southern Sash. Go see Bobby and
Okay.
talk to him about this.
Yes, sir. Because, ma'am, Ms. Brown, some of the windows, are so rotten. I'm not saying you can't replace it. Obviously, I'm not that line of work, and I'm sure those experts do a great job. I know it's expensive, because we've looked at some pricing. But if what I'm hearing correctly, if we go and look at these cellular windows and bring that to y'all's attention, that's what we plan on using, am I kind of on the right track, or?
You might be.
Okay.
Come back with a window that more closely matches the windows that you have.
So then the day when they ask me, these windows that we proposed, in your opinion, aren't good enough to match y'all's standard?
They're not a close enough match.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's the wood part. If they can make the wood part
Yes, ma'am.
look more like these with the thinner mutton,
Okay.
and then the same design is what she's talking about. So,
Yes, ma'am.
the longer windows, so same design.
Okay.
And then the wood more close, or cellular wood-looking portion would
ma'am.
look more like
Yeah.
this,
That's
Okay.
right. Yeah,
which is a more petite design.
Yes, ma'am.
That's in keeping with your house.
Okay.
And we'll try to spell that out. You'll get a letter from us.
Oh, okay.
We'll try to spell that out for
Yep.
you.
Sorry I wasted y'all's time. I
did
just
not.
assumed
No, no,
that we
no.
had turned in
Nope,
the
nope.
proper, at least near the proper,
You're close.
right
Just
window.
make sure that
You-
you do have the muttons on those windows, those vertical.
Muttons?
Yeah, those smaller pieces running vertically down the middle of the window.
I'm getting education on windows tonight. I appreciate it.
Mutton,
Oh,
stiles,
and I didn't bring my
rails.
slideshow.
That's enough words that I can't write. Yes, sir. Yep, I'll be sure to do that.
And if you decide, the application I received called to replace 11 of the 17 windows. So I assumed that
Okay.
those were the ones in the back that were failing, because if you subtract the 6 in the original block, that leaves you with the 11 in the back part. So if you all want to amend that,
Oh, okay.
let me know that too. But this appeared to address those rear windows in that 1967 edition.
And even with the back windows, y'all still would prefer the cellular windows, even in the back portion,
As opposed to what?
what we already sent in, proposed to use, which is,
No, well, you submitted the cellular PVC, it's just the request was to replace 11 of 17.
Right.
And I was assuming that those were the ones in the back.
right. And y'all
But-
telling me that those aren't, the ones we submitted aren't good even for the back area either.
No, that needs
Correct,
to-
that the profile doesn't
ma'am.
match closely enough.
Okay.
And it may be that EnviroGuard makes a window that's got a thinner rail, a
Yes,
thinner
ma'am.
style, and a thinner mutton that
Okay.
would work.
Great.
I'll tell you one thing too that hurts your cause a little bit, and that
Okay.
is that the window that you've shown us here is a very small window.
Okay.
Very small panes of glass that overemphasize the size of the wood then.
Okay.
And it's almost as though you need to get them to let you borrow a full-size window there that we could look at and maybe have a slightly different opinion about it.
Yes, sir.
Because we were just looking at their windows up here, and it appears that their frames are kind of all the same width.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But maybe not, maybe not.
Yes, sir.
But I would predict you could never restore those windows satisfactorily, the existing windows.
Okay.
Is there anyone from the audience to speak to this? May I have a motion to table this until next month?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. I'm sorry we could not come to an agreement right now, but we look forward to seeing your new windows.
Did I lose?
You lost.
I lost.
I'm
Not
sorry,
yet.
lost your case.
I
God,
can fight another day, huh?
It's really a draw, because we're moving it to next
Draw.
month.
Okay, cool.
it was continued. Your case
Yeah.
was continued.
Okay, good. Hey,
Mistrial.
I really appreciate the feedback and thank y'all.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
All right.
You can go.
All right. Christopher and Ivy Eccles, Cloverdale Idlewild, Lexington Road.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm wanting to replace my fence and replace the door in my garage. There's also a petition to re-brick the garage, but that's been canceled. I'm not going to do that. And on the fence, I want to extend that fence down past where it is now. If you go to 4N, I wanted to extend that down between the two single windows on the side of my house.
Any comments from the board?
So when you call it a fence, is it really just the decking? The deck rail?
No. I want to put in a new fence. So there's an existing fence there. I'm going to take that fence down, put up a new fence, and it's going to extend past the deck.
Oh, on the property
Right.
of the design shown?
Say again?
doing the option 1 fence design?
Oh, yeah.
You're just gonna repair the deck? I noticed on here you say you want to repair the deck?
Yeah, the deck is probably just gonna be, repaired and, repainted or something. But the new fence is gonna enclose the deck,
Okay. I see what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah, you look like you might have a bad view straight across the street, if I'm looking at your site plan right. All of us know
Yeah,
there's some apartments along Lexington that might ought to be torn down if Miss Brown would let them.
I thought it was you, David.
No, it's not me. Hey, have you thought about, however, maybe moving your fence just a little bit further away from your porch so that you've got just a little bit of green space but still have some privacy?
yeah, that angle really doesn't do it justice. I tried to draw it out on 4I, so that there is a little bit of green space between the deck and the fence.
Well, you need something at least wide enough to get the lawnmower in there.
Yeah,
Just make it a little softer and more enjoyable, I think, for y'all to sit on the deck without feeling like you're...
yeah, I mean...
He's got a property line issue.
Yeah, so there's that.
He's got to keep it on his property,
Where's the property line in this photograph?
about where the fence is right now.
Ma'am?
About
Well-
where you had it surveyed, didn't you?
Yeah, so what we're talking about was Hadley Street, the street on the side of my house. It kind of encroaches on my property line, so I don't know if I need to get a variance or what to bring it out just a little further. But basically, I wanted to bring it out to those bushes that are there. I don't want to take down the bushes. I just want to bring them all the way to the bush so we can have a little more green space.
Right.
Have you had any masons look at this work that you want to do, repairing those joints?
No, not yet. I mean, I had a couple guys come by,
It's hard to fix something like that.
Yeah.
You may be able to find a masonry stain that would make those joints not quite so white.
Right.
What they've done is, it looks like to me that they've repointed it with hard Portland
Yeah.
cement, and it's hard to get off the bricks, it's hard to get out of the joints without tearing up the bricks.
Right.
So you might try to see if you can find something that would just sort of camouflage the fact that those joints are so
Yeah.
much bigger than the ones surrounding.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of other houses in the area just
Well,
repaint
with
it.
our bad dirt, it just
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah,
You're just lucky it hasn't all fallen off of the street.
right.
If you find a good mason, call me.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wanted to put brick over the garage to make it match the house, but because of the soft grass, I'm not gonna be able to do that effectively.
Sort of paint it to a color to match the house. And
Yeah.
so if you painted it
Or
a
dark
darker
color.
color,
Yeah, I'll just
it would
paint
be
it.
less
Right.
obtrusive.
Yeah, I'll
And
just
did you,
paint it.
and just a regular steel roll-up door, is that what you're putting
Yeah.
on? Okay. Is there anyone from the neighborhood to comment on this? Mr. Colvin, I saw you come in.
Charlie Colvin with the Cloverdale Idlewild Association, the CIA. We don't have any objections to the project. Making that garage disappear makes a lot of sense. If painting it a darker color so that it fades back, if we're not going to do the brick, which the material we saw before wasn't too good. As far as the fence is concerned, that's up to you guys. That's okay with us.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments from the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the petitioner's request for garage door and side street fence.
Second that motion.
All in favor? All opposed? Go.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. John, John, I believe it's your turn.
Wake him up.
Onlick. I can do it, actually.
Run them out a little.
Good evening, board members. I am John Anglick. I own Cloverdale Service Center in Old Cloverdale, and we are proposing to add a 8 by 18 foot addition of a storage building on the back of the building. With the upcoming advancement in technology on cars, we need to have a little more space to house some new equipment. It's going to be built out of cinder block. It'll look just like the back of the building, painted the same color, except it will have a slanted metal roof, but it's right next to the metal shed that's been there forever. I don't think most people are ever going to see it. But without the space, because the building's so small, we won't be able to advance technology, and that's what we're looking to do.
Okay. Any comments from the board? Anyone from the audience?
I want him to advance this technology.
Dorothy Forrester, representing the Old Cloverdale Association. John came and proposed this at our meeting, and we have no issues with it.
All right. Any further discussion from the board? Then may I have a motion?
Move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you, board.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bob and Linda Knapp, Capitol Heights, Madison Avenue.
Hi, I'm Bob Knapp. My wife Lisa, actually, not Linda. We're doing some outside projects on a total home renovation for my mother-in-law, and there's 3 of them up there, I think. And it's really Lisa's brainchild with the contractor. They came up with all that, so she knows all the details, so she can talk to them. We want to replace the shed, right?
There was originally a shed on the property. There's a slab of, somewhere in the back. There's a slab of cement that was
Lisa,
there.
could you speak into the microphone? We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, there it is, where the Land Rover is. There, the original shed that was back there collapsed in on itself. We did propose putting another one there. We'd found one on Costco, and apparently it's been approved for somebody else's house previously. So we'd like to be able to do that. You can see the chain link fence there was original to the house. We'd like to be able to put in a dog-eared wooden 6-foot privacy fence, which matches the privacy fence that is next to the house as well, and go back. The proposal shows that we'd like to move the fence back over, I don't know if my note's over there, 12 feet, I think it's 12 feet, so that we can put in a parking pad and more driveway access. And then we had talked to the gentleman at the variation board.
For the Board of Adjustment, they had to make
Yes.
some adjustments on the fence, so they had a clear sight line backing out and not running over anyone on the sidewalk,
Okay.
which is why it's jogged
idea.
in at the corner. So,
Is that the shed?
That's the shed, yeah.
The shed is actually kind of cute.
Yeah, it is. We're going to paint it the same color to match the house, so.
Okay.
But it allows us access on both sides. We have the house next door, so this one's for my mom. So we just want to be able to use the driveway, but still keep the integrity of the original house and the land. So we do have right-of-way through the previous driveway for our house as well. And then, what was the
So
other?
that's the shed, the fence, the parking pad, and then
The pillars on the front post, yeah. The original, if you look at the front post, or porch, originally it had those great big wooden pillars by the looks of it. You can see the indentions in the original cement. Somebody at some point had gone and put up those wrought iron, really ugly
New Orleans style cast iron
things.
Heavies all get out.
They're rotten. They don't look good with the house, so what we had proposed for just the straight columns that are more in keeping with the design of the house, and would like to do those as well there. And then I didn't do it, but I'm gonna have to come back, I guess, because we'd like to put them on the side porch, and I didn't show that. I'll come back for that one.
Any comments from the board? I have a comment on I think the shed is very attractive. I think the fence is fine. Usually, porch columns from this period, rather than being long and straight like you have them drawn, are a little bit smaller at the top and a little bit wider at the bottom. And it just serves to make things visually look correct. If you make them all the same length and they end up looking skinnier at the bottom, that's the Greeks, I guess, discovered that a long time ago. So I think that the columns should have some dimension to them so that they're narrower at the top and wider at the bottom rather than just being straight. Others on the board may not agree with me.
I don't know if you can see the front of the house. There are a lot of very straight lines in the rest of the house and the design of the Tudor up top. We were just trying to follow that. It actually looked really pretty, and then the bottom would just have the raised square pedestal, you know.
Plant the base, okay. I would appreciate somebody else saying something about the columns to make sure. I may be completely off base here.
I think what has been typical in Capitol Heights for full height columns have been rounded columns. That the groupings of the square columns have generally been on plinths, which obviously they don't have. But those tended to be kind of those transitional to neoclassical bungalows that you even see the full height columns on. So I'm not sure what, before someone decided to modernize to your fancy mid-century wrought iron, what might have been there.
Well, like I said, the only thing, I could have taken measurements, I guess, but the original squares, but the footprint just looks square, like it was a wooden square box, you know, about 12 by 12. And it was where the pillar is on the right, the center, and on the left. There was just one single one in each place. And you can see, if you look at the top, I don't know what that fascia board at the top is called, it ran all the way across the top. You can see where those original pillars were. But they were all singles. Our house next door, which is different in style, has those pillars that you're talking about. It's got the raised cement, and then we have, and then it's got the pillars that narrow as they go up. But our house doesn't look like this house. It's not designed the same. It's a different look. And I've seen the rounded ones too, but I don't think they go with the house.
I appreciate the fact that you've seen the evidence of the prior columns and know where they're supposed to be.
What year was this house built?
Do you remember?
In the early 30s, or no, 25, 30, the number 35 and 20, or 25 and 32 come to mind, but we have a couple of other houses too, so I might be confusing it.
I'm sorry, I didn't bring that. I don't remember, honestly.
I mean, that's about what it looks like to me, is the late 20s, early 30s.
It's a shame we don't have a photograph of way back then where we can try to match up exactly what was in the front of the house.
Well, is it just me or the columns crying for a capital and a base?
Yeah.
I don't, ma'am?
They would have had that.
Yeah, I mean, you know they would have, and I think these should too, and not be just a straight shaft of square or rectangular wood there.
I think that I appreciate the fact that you recognize that these 1950s wrought iron columns were a bad idea in the first place, except that they took them longer to rot out and didn't really go with the house. But I think that if you put something straight there, we've moved from the 50s to the 70s. And instead we need to go back to the 30s. And I would just, I mean, my thought would be that maybe you need to ride around your neighborhood and look closely at what other houses have. On my street, there are more round columns than square ones. Mine are square, but my house is also older than yours by 15 years, so that's a little bit different too.
And there are lots of manufacturers of columns out there that are cellular or resin-based that look just like wood, paint just like wood, and won't rot. And I think you could find, what are you after, six of them that would look appropriate on your front porch. And they could be round or rectangular. There would be no necessary reason for them to be square.
There's even there's a factory in Troy. You can go down there and look at
HB&G.
Yeah.
I believe they're structural as well.
Yeah.
Ma'am?
They're structural.
They are structural, absolutely they're structural. Yeah, I mean, were you actually planning to leave the wrought iron there?
No.
No, okay, yeah, okay. They are structural, for sure. Use them on my house. So y'all are considering repainting the gable?
It has all been repainted.
Uh-oh.
The house has been repainted, it's all been redone, and I
Okay.
brought a picture.
Well, then I'll just stop right there.
It looks terrific, much, much, much better.
Is there anyone from the audience to speak to this? Did I ask that already? Any more comments from the board?
So I would make a recommendation then, Madam Chairman, that we would perhaps table this request and request the petitioner to come back with another proposed solution for the columns on the front porch.
Or we could approve the fence.
Approve the shed, the fence, and the parking pad, and then
fence.
allow them to come back with alternatives on the columns.
That's what I really meant. That's what I really meant to say.
That's
Madam
what
Chairman.
I
Right.
So then get most of the work done.
That's right.
I will put that in the form of a motion that we table the columns issue and we approve as submitted the request to install the fence, shed, and parking pad.
I will second that motion.
All right.
All in favor? Opposed? All right. Think some more on those columns. Thank you.
Come on, people, come on.
You know that? How'd you find that?
Number 7, Nicholas. And Nicholas, I'm going to need some help pronouncing your last name.
Major.
Nardapovsky.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Major Nicholas Narbatovsky. There's
No,
a lot of
that's
pronunciation
hard.
too, but before I begin on my request, I want to first sincerely apologize at the state at which I come before you. My recent education on the Montgomery Architectural Review Board has been brief but thorough, and I apologize for not coming for you in the normal course of action here.
You're not the first, Major. You won't be the last, believe me.
I understand.
And I'm just guessing you're fairly new to the community.
Yes, sir, I am.
That's right. We're glad to have you.
Absolutely.
My wife and I both been in the Air Force for a little over 10 years now. We went to the Air Force Academy, and this is the first time I've been on the wrong side of the law in my life. So hopefully we can get back on the right side as quickly as possible. So anytime we move to a new location, this is our second time moving with the family. We believe in growing where you're planted and being a part of the community, which is why we chose to live where we live. The house itself really speaks to me. I love the craftsman style on there, and built in 1923. I knew there were going to be some issues, but it's the first house I've owned that hasn't looked like every other house right next to it, so I was pretty excited about that. The other thing we really believe in is self-reliance, and I want to teach my 2 daughters both of those things, as well as all the skills that I have, and hopefully I'll give to them. So the reason behind the 2 sheds that we have falls in line with what we believe there. So the first shed, the smaller one, is storage for lawn and garden tools as well as bicycles. We bike around as much as we can in the neighborhood, down to the coffee shops or other places on the weekend. Unfortunately, my 1-year-old has figured out where the ice cream store is on the corner, so every Sunday she drags us out. But that's the intent behind that shed. And the other one in the back is designed as a potting shed and a place for me to do some work and teach my older daughter how to use tools and do a little bit of woodworking. She's already roped me into building her a dollhouse of some sort. I think she wants a rocket ship, so I think it's a bit of a tall order. We'll get there. But that's what we're looking at requesting approval for. The house itself is painted brick. The siding material is that vertical wood siding. I've done the best I could because I do love the architectural style to match what I can. Everything is going to be painted to match the house, trim included. And because of the way that I come before you as well, please let me know what I can do to comply with your intent and make sure that I come back in line with your board's requests.
It appears to me that these are minimally visible from Park Avenue.
Yes, ma'am. So from the street, the only visibility is the top of the small shed there with the eaves and the paint there. Depending on how much I let those bushes grow, that could possibly turn into not visible from the street. But the other shed in the back is not visible from the street. You have to be standing about 15 feet into the property line on the front lawn to even see the top of it.
Okay. Any further comments from the board? Any other comments?
Major, you're going to obviously going to run power to the garden shed for your tools?
That's not in the cards right now. I was planning on just having it as a storage building right now, and then any power that I'd need, I'd run an extension cord per project.
Okay.
Definitely nothing permanently installed, but if I do that, I'm absolutely going to work with.
Don't intend to
Christie
put
and
any
City,
plumbing or
so-
anything in the garden shed?
No plumbing.
All right. We've had that issue before in some other, they always are fun. Thank you, Major.
What kind of doors and windows are you putting in the bigger shed?
The bigger shed will have wood panel doors to match. They will have the cross braces trim.
Like the little shed?
Just like the little shed, yes, ma'am. It has that hardware as well, the brushed brass.
Okay, what about the windows?
The windows are a false mutton there as well, but they are a 3/4 inch Roman ogive that matches the house as well. So
Are they operable?
they are, yes, ma'am.
They double hung or or
I believe just single. I mean, it's just one that slides up
like
and
two
down.
two sashes, one goes up?
Yes, ma'am, they are.
And the mutton pattern matches the house. Does the house have a
It
mutton
does.
pattern?
Yeah.
It does, yes, ma'am.
He's got casements, it looks like, and single hungs. Yes, he does, and they look like they're replaced.
So the board needs to ask itself then whether we would render a decision based on the question, would we have approved vertical siding if the major had asked for this in the first place? Is that about the gist of all of this?
Yep.
So what are our thoughts on that?
Let's get a comment from Ms. Darby Forrester first, if she has one.
Nicholas did come before the OCA at our meeting that we had. And I think, Christie, if he had come before you with the smaller shed, would you have been able to approve it under the shed guidelines?
Only if battens were applied to the groove. I cannot approve a vertical groove siding unless it's battened, and that's kind of a reverse batten pattern.
Okay.
Size-wise, yes. That's not to say that it wouldn't be an approvable building, it just means it's not a staff approvable building.
We don't have a problem with him having the two sheds, and we said we would leave it up to y'all as if he had to make any modifications to it. We did ask him at the meeting, and I think he was telling the truth when he said that his real estate agent did not tell him that he was in the historic district and what that meant. He just
Shocking surprise.
I know, it's shocking. Which, you know, he's come from out of town. He hasn't lived here for 20 years like some people who don't know anything. But so I think he's telling the truth when he didn't know. He was told you just had to keep stuff in the style. So he wasn't given the proper information. So we don't have a problem with those sheds. We don't feel like he needs to tear them down and start over. If there's some changes he can make to better fit into the shed requirements, then we're okay with that. But if there's not, we can live with the sheds.
Thank you.
Darby, what did you just say now? Hey, Darby, what did you just say if there's something that he could do what now?
Like Christy was saying, if he had, added the what? Battens or whatever to make it, if y'all think those look fine or not, but if you would have said, okay, if you do this, we will approve them, then, but outside of tearing it down and starting over, if that's your only, solution to it, we would say keep the sheds.
I thought you were talking about the fact that there were 2 sheds, which I think your comments, Christy, said that the area of both of them is still less than
Correct.
the maximum.
Right.
So it's not that.
Yeah, we're okay with the 2 sheds. It's just if you want him to make any changes to make it look better or more in keeping with your shed guidelines.
So, board, do we think it looks any better makes it look any better to put battens up? That would be awfully close battens.
They
if
would
you
be
put them
on
at
this
every
one.
groove.
Yeah.
Or do some every foot still soften it up and give it a little shadow line and make it appear to be, or every other one, to make it to be something more in keeping with what we have approved, which is board and batten previously?
We have not, I don't know that I don't recall reviewing any sheds with board and batten.
You don't? I thought that's what we said.
We discussed it under the staff approvable shed guidelines that, based on what other municipalities had looked at, that they would allow the vertical groove siding if battens were applied. I don't think they're talking about this narrow stuff. I think they're more the T111 where you've got the wider spacing, that they have done that because it is a more historic appearance. The only board and batten outbuilding I have ever seen in the districts is in Cottage Hill. So, I'm not necessarily saying that a board and batten shed is appropriate in Cloverdale. But it's you've kind of split on this issue previously. We had one building that got rolled in that was huge, that didn't have an eave, that they had to put siding on it. It had a vertical groove. And then there was another one in the same neighborhood that was built with kind of a funky modern roof that was a vertical groove siding that you all let him keep it. So the only guidance I can offer you is that you have decided it both ways depending on the setting and the location, which is within your purview to do, case by case basis.
Well, the one where we required them decided one was huge and 2 was very visible.
Yes, it was. It was on a corner lot.
Madam Chair,
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Do you have a comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion based on the fact that now I can see these sheds right side up and not in a sideways angle. Because I don't know how to do that very well. But if that storage shed on the left is it, Major, I'm all for you right there. I think that looks good, and if you dress the one on the your garden shed in the same manner, I'll vote for you. So I'd like to make a motion just to get it on the table and get it out there
Right.
that we suggest that the storage shed, which is completed, right? It is a finished building, right? That that he be allowed to finish the garden shed in the same manner and paint it to match his house and start teaching his girls how to be carpenter girls.
I second the motion.
All in favor? Opposed? Your first foray into breaking the law turned out well for you.
You have
Well,
a
I
victory.
sure do appreciate it, and I'm glad it didn't turn out a little worse for where there. So thank you all very much.
You're very
and,
welcome.
Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Major.
All right, Christy, you want to discuss this Norman Bridge Road thing? Do you want that to be in the meeting or ex parte, sort of?
No, 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 we can do that now. We need to, Mr. Taylor is here. So I had gotten a complaint about alterations to a side porch that had been previously enclosed, and you have photographs in that handout that show what windows were there in 2000. When we took the photos for February 2018, the petition for the parking area and tree removal, it looks like those aluminum windows lost their muntins or got replaced with storm windows or something.
They're not.
And Mr. Taylor has replaced those with a Marvin wood window with simulated divided light, 4-light pattern. And we discussed on site this morning, part of the reason for selecting a 4-light and not trying to do a 6-light is that when you get that small, it's going to look really smushed up. The proportion wouldn't be quite right. So he is an out-of-state owner and just happens to be in town, but would not be in November, so we would ask you to consider this. I did send this to Cloverdale Idlewild after I compiled it, which is why I assume they're all huddled in the back of the room, waiting with bated breath. That you have the discussion about these alterations with Mr. Taylor. Make a motion. It would not be official because we have not advertised it, but in the interest of him not having to find a representative to come back in November, if there aren't issues with it, then we would advertise it and just confirm that decision at the November meeting. So would you like him to come forth and...
I'd like for him to tear out those windows.
Would you?
Door. Yeah. I mean, we've gone from bad to worse.
Okay.
The original jalousie windows, I guess they were there for a long time and got passed and put in place, but let's not keep...
Well, they were there prior to designation of the neighborhood.
I know that, yeah. And so then here we are now with, gee whiz, that's awful. I don't know what's behind those windows, but that's just totally inappropriate, it seems like to me. If we're going to get excited about the architecture and in that part of the city, this is one to get excited about to me. That's pretty bad. I think John and I have actually figured out the two windows don't even align with each other, but that's not the issue. It's just a case of a particularly bad design.
Well, if you look at the old photos, they didn't originally either.
Ma'am?
Yeah, the old ones, they didn't.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was bad to begin with, or whenever it was built. I don't think it started out that way. It probably was a screen porch with
probably
curb
open
trim and everything else once upon a time.
Well, here we've had this great long discussion about vertical siding. What do we have here?
Yeah, but this is
the vertical siding matches what was there. That was the material that had been used to fill in the porch and is still present on the upper porch.
So Christy, what exactly are we deciding on? Whether or not those are a suitable replacement to the windows that were there?
Yes.
Not whether the original windows or the windows shown in the previous pictures are appropriate or not. That's not up for discussion.
Well, no, because what triggers review is making a change. And ideally, if someone is going to change out something that is not compatible, you're going to end up with a positive change, that we're moved back in the right direction. So the question is not really whether or not the other ones were better, but whether or not the new windows that have been introduced are appropriate in this kind of infill scenario.
We quite often, though, make comments about more things than materials and colors. I mean, we also discuss design issues
Yes.
with folks, and have we lost that right for approval? I mean, we just...
No,
it's just
no,
about-
I'm just saying that,
I know
that
we
really,
haven't.
I mean,
this,
you
this
can.
is more than just about an appropriate window.
It is,
more
be-
about an appropriate solution for the entire opening.
Because it was not historically an enclosed opening, yes. Yes.
Yes.
I'm just saying that we don't really need to discuss the merits of the previous windows because they were kind of crappy, and we know that. But that doesn't mean that anyway.
But they were there.
They were there.
This is new.
Correct.
Not
So
good.
the change is what would have triggered
Right.
a review in this case.
Well, it would be my opinion is if we have a change and we're making a change to the design, this isn't a replacement in kind, and we ought to look for a better design solution rather than repeating the poor design solution that was there in another form. That would be my opinion. But I'm interested in hearing from the folks at Cloverdale Idlewild if they have
There's a lot
comments
going
they-
on in this property without permission first, that's for sure. It's getting frustrating. Very frustrating.
Well, John, does it actually get worse on other sides of the house? I mean, the front elevation, to me, with the exception of these arches, I mean, there've been some other things, I get my properties confused. Is this the one that you cut down the trees that you shouldn't have? and
Yeah,
all
they
that
cut
stuff?
down the cedar.
Yeah, yeah,
Then they
okay.
put in the parking space, and they didn't
Right.
even use the space where the cedar was.
Right. So this is the same house?
Yes, it's at the corner of Hadley and Norman.
I guess the good news is there's only one house like this in Montgomery, then, is that right?
So they were
No,
aware that they
no.
should come.
Yes.
There are others.
I know there are.
Tom? You have comments?
I thought there was parking over here.
No.
Thank you. My name's Scott Taylor. I'm the owner of the property. And I appreciate the opportunity to get introduced. I think it's probably something that's a little bit long overdue. So I don't know how many of the people on the board here are familiar with what's transpired, but it sounds like we still may have some bad information out there. So I do want to try and clear that up. When this project began some time ago, we actually hired a local real estate agent. So as Ms. Christie has indicated, I am an out-of-town owner. I've lived here previously for a short period of time, enjoyed the area, and looked forward to the opportunity to come back with my wife and I at some point in the future. So this seemed like an ideal project for us to actually get started and try and get some roots to come back to the community that we enjoyed. One of the things that we did was we actually contacted a local realtor. And at that point, with the realtor, we confirmed with them in writing that this was not in the historic district. So I totally understand that this is a frustrating situation for all of you all. I get that. It's equally frustrating for my wife and I because it's not been our intention to make a bad impression. Our intention has actually been to come into the community and make an improvement. My wife and I have actually made a significant investment into this community. Anybody who's familiar with this property, I think it would be a fair statement to say that this property was, I could cordially say, an eyesore. It was vacant. There were transients from time to time. My understanding from some of the neighbors is that there were drugs, there were crime. It was a problem. Based on the assurance from our realtor that this was not in the historic district, and in fact, I've actually provided Ms. Christie the email chain because I really do want to get this cleared up. It is so unfortunate that I'm having to be here before you tonight and try and clean egg off of my face. That was not our intention at all. Our intention was to come in and do a good job on this project and to get it cleaned up. Based on the assurance in writing that we received from our realtor that we were not in the historic district, we did have the trees removed. That's what a reasonable person would do. One of the things, for those that are not familiar with this property, we've had to redo the entire roof, top to bottom. And the reason being is because there were 2 trees that were actually laying on the property. They caused substantial damage to the property. So naturally, again, being an out-of-state owner, when I came in and saw that, the first rule when you're doing a rehab is, stop the bleeding, stop the damage, find the structural issues and get those repaired. That's what we did. I understand that has been a tremendous source of frustration for this board. I get that. And again, we operated off a written email chain that told us in writing we were not in the historic district. So I can't undo it. I can't put the trees back. What we have done is try to come up with a great plan to actually do that. And I do want to just address this gentleman's concern over here about unauthorized authorizations. So one of the things that we found ourselves in a position of having to do is kind of learn the rules and learn the ropes on the fly. And that's not to make an excuse. I'm just telling you where we're at. This was not our intention to take on an historic renovation. However, that's the unfortunate situation where we found ourselves in. So my wife and I like the community. We want to put down roots here. We chose to go ahead and continue the project. That being the case, as we've tried to learn the rules and the requirements from the community as far as historic projects are concerned, my basic understanding, and again, I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm going to emphasize the word basic, is that property owners have the ability, or at least have the authority, for lack of a better word, if there's a maintenance issue, so if you've got a broken door or you got a broken window or something like that, as long as you're matching existing, that you can replace that. That's what we proceeded under. So when we looked at this unit and we were examining the outside of it, there were 2 existing windows there. What we did, because we found there was a security issue, you had 2 existing windows, you had some miscellaneous piece of, plexiglass. All of it was unserviceable. It was broken, it was not safe, it presented a security issue. We went ahead and matched, in our opinion, we matched the existing. If you look at the windows, it's a high-quality Marvin window. It is a divided light. It is a wood window. And in our opinion, it matched the exterior. Based on that basic understanding, we didn't believe that a board hearing was required over that. However, once we were notified that this may in fact have been something that the board wanted to look at, I do want to let you know, again, I'm from out of state. I changed my travel plans. I've extended my stay. I've agreed to come here and present personally and to answer any questions. Again, we understand that we have egg on our face, and I'm not going to make an excuse. We relied upon a local professional who gave us bad information.
Basically lied to you, I guess. You need to go talk to that individual too. That's the reason you're here, Mr. Taylor.
It is. It's an incredibly unfortunate chain of events, but we're at where we're at. Our goal is to make a quality project in this community and to make a poor performing piece of property, make it something that the community can be proud of. The windows we looked at, again, we went over and above. These are Marvin windows. These are a nice grade of window. We believe that they match the historic structure. We used the same rough opening, same size. We tried to keep within what was there. We intentionally did not try and change anything, again, because our understanding was if you don't change something, if you're just replacing and matching what's there, that does not require board approval. So I hope that gives a little additional background as to the history. And again, I apologize for what's transpired. We simply acted on what we were told, and I know it's unfortunate, but we're doing our best to make it right at this point.
Mr. Taylor, what is behind that door on the first floor when you walk into that door?
It's actually, there's an entry and a laundry area right there.
What's to the right when you enter?
So if you're looking at the door on the right-hand side, so if you walk in on the right, that's actually the laundry area. Okay. And again, that was something that was existing, that was not us.
There's a nice opening that could be a door on the side of the building, but it's right in your laundry room, correct?
It's not possible to put it there because of the laundry.
All right, thank you.
So I have a kind of a question.
Sure.
Is this door taller than the original door? Because it looks to me like the whole opening's been taken out and then kind of configured. Because the the door and the window in the original seem to line up.
Yeah.
And on this one, the windows are sort of slid down the wall.
That's actually a great catch. So I will tell you, no, the door is the same. It's the same open, same size. However, you are correct about the windows. You know, one of the things that was, again, unfortunate, just from an appearance standpoint, it was so unattractive. If you look at those windows, not only are they unserviceable, but they're all cockeyed. I mean, you've got one that's 6 or 8 inches above the other one, and it just gives a poor exterior appearance. So yes, we did correct that, but the rough openings are the same. The only thing that the construction company did was make a slight horizontal shift to better center the openings, as you know, within reason, to improve the appearance. But those are the same openings.
Are the windows aligned to each other? Because they seem not to be.
Ours are, yes. You may be looking at it without full trim, but yes, they are even.
Well, I'm looking at this, admittedly, kind of an angle, but it looks like if you're looking into the door, that there's more space between the door frame and the window on the right than there is between the door frame and the window on the left.
There is, that's correct.
Why?
Because we tried to keep with what was within there. We didn't want to make any modifications. So we just slid them a slight amount, and to get everything to fit. There's no way to get it exactly equal. If you look, for example, at the door, you'll see that it's not exactly centered in the opening.
Yeah, I noticed that too. That was going to be my next question.
Yes, that's correct. We just tried to leave, our intent was to just do a maintenance item and to replace.
What's the solution? So that is a separate apartment, and that is the only entrance to that apartment?
There is a rear entrance.
Okay, thank you.
And don't get me wrong, Mr. Taylor, I'm glad you're taking on this project because I live in this neighborhood.
Great.
I live in Cloverdale, Idlewild. I walk by this house almost every other day walking my dog. So I've seen the progression. I know it was a piece of crap when I moved to the neighborhood 19 years ago.
Well,
it looks
I
a hell of a lot
appreciate those
better
comments.
now than it does then. But when you do make repairs and adjustments, they got to be done right.
Well, I totally agree. And again, one of the things, because again, I really kind of view this as a get to know each other session. You know, we're just honestly getting introduced for the first time. I regret that the local representation we had was not forthright with the board. It certainly, again, caused significant misunderstanding and hard feelings. We want to get that cleaned up. So one of the things as part of our get to know each other introduction here is I actually have asked a couple of local residents to come in who view the work that's done, just to give the board kind of a flavor and a feel for the level and the quality of the renovation that we're doing. With the board's permission, I would like to ask Ms. Porter to come up and provide some commentary, if that would be all right.
Good evening. I'm Annabeth Porter. I am the broker and owner of Rental Property Services, which is a property management company here in Montgomery, and I'm going to represent this apartment in leasing efforts, which I've already begun. I know Cloverdale. I've been in Montgomery over 70 years. I grew up on Magnolia Curve. I went to school at Cloverdale Elementary and junior high, and I graduated from Lanier High. So I'm not exactly a foreigner here. I'm a local person. What Mr. Taylor has done is phenomenal. Have any of you in your walks by popped your head inside to look at the improvements he's made to this terrible, terrible building? You'd be surprised. He spent thousands of dollars refinishing the original hardwood flooring. It's beautiful. I have photographs. He's installed central heating and air systems in each of the 4 units, brand new. He has installed brand new stainless steel appliances in the kitchens. He has installed granite countertops in the kitchens. The floors that are not the original hardwood that had vinyl or linoleum flooring, he has replaced with ceramic wood grain tile. This gentleman has painted the entire inside of the units, the ones that are completed. 2 are under completion right now. Just a beautiful shade of gray. They look like they belong in the lofts downtown. I don't think he should be penalized because he's not from Alabama. He was here, he was at Maxwell, he enjoyed Montgomery, and he wants to have a presence here.
We're not penalizing the gentleman, ma'am.
Well,
Ma'am,
there've been
ma'am,
so
hang on.
many
Hang on, ma'am.
comments.
We're not penalizing Mr. Taylor because he's from out of state.
Well,
I want that to be
Then why
very,
have there
very
been so
clear.
many comments made about him being an absentee owner? He's been here for the last 90 days. He went home twice to Texas, once to take his son to college to get him settled in as a freshman in college. Those 2 trips are the only ones he's made back to Texas in 3 months. He's working very hard. I would love, I wish that these photographs could be put on your slides to show you all what has been done. I think you'd be so impressed. I just wish that you would give him the benefit of a doubt and realize he's put a lot of money into this community, and he had asked me to help him find other properties. I would hope that he'll still feel that way. I just don't understand. If there's only one of you who's actually been by the property, is that correct, Mr. Payne?
No, I've been by.
I've been by the property.
Have you been inside?
No. I don't
Well,
go.
the interior has no bearing on
Concerned
the
with the
board.
inside. Our only concern is with what's
what's
viewed by the
outside.
public.
I got you.
And I'm glad that he's done the inside well so that good
Oh,
tenants will be
it's
in the
really
property.
nice, and the rents will be reflective of that, and hopefully the tenant mix will be better than the derelicts and the drug addicts that were there before, which can only improve the neighborhood. I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
If the board wouldn't mind, we actually have one of our neighbors, if the board has a few minutes to hear from one of our neighbors that's directly behind the property.
Sure.
Chris.
Hey, I'm back again. Yeah, so this is right behind my property.
Okay.
And of course, when we first bought our property, we didn't pay attention to the thing behind our house until we were actually in the house and trying to figure out what is that and why is it there.
Yeah.
So we're just grateful that somebody's taking the property over to fix it. And so, I appreciate what Scott's doing. And I know it's kind of hard trying to fix something that was so ugly in the first place, but I hope we can find a solution to it.
Thank you. Mr. Coleman?
I do remember this house coming up a few times, and I can't hear real well back there. But my question is, I thought at the first meeting, Mr. Payne asked for a full outside design. I don't know the technical terms, but and then I thought Janie Wall came back with that design. Is this that same property?
It is.
Okay, thank you. That's all. So then my question is, are we following the Janie Wall design?
He has painted the building a palette color. However, it is not the color scheme that she provided. We walked through the parking area and landscape plan this morning, and that appears to be a match. Let me see what else it said. Roofing, architectural shingles, so yes. I think the only thing was the proposal was to paint the house or the building a deep green, so some of these less sympathetic alterations would disappear into the background a little better.
I thought she had addressed something with the central entry.
This is all
okay.
She submitted. It was a site plan with some notes on it with regards to the roofing and the paint colors.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions.
If I could address that issue, we're aware of the paint colors, and our plan is to follow the paint colors outlined on that plan. There's been no finished paint done. The painters have just started doing some basic priming, so that may be why the color doesn't match exactly. But yes, our intention is to follow the submitted plan that we provided to the board.
Charlie Colvin with the Cloverdale Idlewild Association. And it's already been brought to the attention of the board and everything that this property has actually been inching forward in its appearance and its improvements. And we compliment Mr. Taylor for that. That's a great step forward. The landscaping has been cleaned up and picked up. The back area has been cleaned up, and everything there seems to be okay. Clearly, it's not. The paint isn't finished yet. Is that what I just heard? It has to be. They've just got to put the primer on. Yeah. So, but even with that, it looks better. We don't have a suggestion to do better with the windows on that little part on the right. Our own personal experience is my daughter lived in that apartment, and so we appreciate you doing the inside. The only item of concern, if we have one, is that Gelasi window up on the upper part over the door. Obviously, the paint would probably be fixed to match. If something could be done there that would tie it more in with the window, I think we'd be more than happy with the result.
Thank you. Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry if our talking about an absentee landlord led to any idea that we somehow had prejudice against absentee landlords. I actually thought of it in terms of, as an absentee landlord, it's hard for you to keep your finger on what goes on, and that probably things had happened that you didn't have any knowledge of.
Well, and I think that's a fair assessment.
That was all we meant.
The good news is we're all here together for the first time, and we've had a chance to get introduced and get a better understanding. So we're looking forward to finishing this project in the spirit of cooperation. We've made and again, I understand the board may not be aware of this, but there has been substantial progress made on the property. And I think over the next couple of weeks, the board will be pleasantly surprised. Again, we're committed to the community. It's been our goal to do a project like this here and hopefully continue to do them. Certainly, we've hit a few road bumps in this one, but I will tell you and we'd be happy to do a showing. If anybody from the community or the board ever wants to swing by, I'm there most days. I'd be happy to show the board the interior and let you look at what's been done. And I can just tell you, you're not going to recognize the changes. It's just a completely different place.
Well, like I said, Mr. Taylor, I've been in the neighborhood 18 years. It's a hell of a lot better now than what it was when I moved in.
Thank you.
Of course, I think you by now understand our perspective.
Absolutely.
And again, the fact that you live out of state has nothing to do with it. We have difficulties with landlords that have lived in Montgomery for 50 years. But we have a job and we do take it seriously.
I completely understand that, and again, honestly, I feel like we're all kind of on the same page. We want to see this thing turned around, and everybody wants a good-looking property.
I hope you rent every apartment and get the maximum price for it, because it could only help me and my neighbors and my neighborhood. That's absolutely true.
I get that, and again, I think in a couple more weeks you're going to be very happy with the finished product. I will tell you, overlooking the issue of being forthright about whether or not the property was in the historic district or not, there were some other differences we had with the realtor, and that's why he no longer represents us. Our philosophy has always been, if we find a property in a nice community that we want to restore and establish, we don't want to be a slumlord. We don't want to be that contractor, that company that comes in and says, hey, I'm going to slap on some paint and I'm done. I'm out of here. That's not my wife and I. It's just not. We take pride in what we do, and again, I can assure you, not to say that we won't ever make a misstep, but our intention is to give you a great product, to give you a nice looking property that the community can be proud of.
No, Chair, can we give him some advice on what the board would like to see?
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Borough Barrett's microphone.
No, I think we've informed him that, we're not happy with what we see, but, can we just give him some advice on?
Well, I think we could, and there's nothing that's been said that has made me like the solution of the fill-in of the arch of the porch any better. It's my turn now, and so that is commendable to be renovating the interior of the home. Our job is not to look at the interior; it's to look at the exterior. And you made the comment that there was really nothing else you could do right there. Of course, there were other things that could be done, and there were 4 or 5 architects on this board, and I see at least one of them sketching down there at the other end of the table. Maybe he's got an idea, but the fill-in of a porch, which has also caused members of the CIA a heartburn in many meetings past, have invariably not been done very well. And this is an example of one of them. It doesn't matter that the windows are Marvin. That's a great window and a great door. It's the design solution within that arched opening that is not appropriate to the original style of the house. And that's what we're here to look at and to talk to you about. And that's my personal complaint. And I'm just one member of how many ever is on this board, 7 or 9 of us. But that is what caused me to object to what had been done, not the quality of the materials, the quality of the design solution or the appropriateness of the design solution based on what was in that original arch. Originally, that arch was there. It was a screened-in porch. It was remodeled in such a way that destroyed, I guess, the integrity of what was behind that arch in the first place, but it's not where it can't be modified or adjusted. And I don't know what's behind it, but I do know that whatever's behind it was added after the fact when that used to be a screened-in porch out there. So that's my complaint is that
sure.
This right here and above it. If you're going to make that into a classy-looking apartment building, and if you just kind of put your hand, over that part right there, it's looking pretty darn good. I mean, it's you've done a lot to it, and it looks good. And so I think you're just missing the mark by not seriously addressing the fill-ins that were done on those. Is that just 2 of them? Or is it like that on the back or something? I'm not that familiar with the property. Maybe just 2 of them.
No, it's just that side.
So I'm done with that. That's all I've got to say.
I would add, in addition, I think we're emphasizing those 2 areas by painting them a different color, and I think that's hurting you a little bit too. And I don't know if, the previous color before you bought it was like that, and so anyway, just something to consider.
If I might address both of those points, let me deal with the paint first. So my understanding from looking at the plan that's been submitted to the board and approved is that the infill areas are actually supposed to match the exterior color. And that's what will happen. So again, keep in mind, I know there's different colors showing right now, but again, no finished paint has been done. They've just started putting on a little primer and that's it. So that's going to account for the color discrepancies. We fully intend to make the infill areas match the exterior as shown on the plan. In regards to the solution, You know, I understand that perspective. If you look at the entire property, that entire property, you know, there are some great things about it. There are some things that are, you know, maybe not so great. I get that. But in any project, there are compromises. As I said, our intention is not to rebuild or to redesign the project. That's just not within the scope of what we're doing. We viewed this as a maintenance item. I don't disagree with anything that you've said, that it may have at one point been a screened-in porch or had other uses. All I can speak to is the use that it has now and what we had to work with. So we viewed it as a maintenance item. Those were existing rough openings. We replaced it with an appropriate window, and we matched the siding that was there. That's really what our intention was there, to stay with what we had to work with. We would just be going down a rabbit hole to try and redesign and make everything historically appropriate. There's just no way for us to do that. So we made the best call that we could on this particular item.
I worked for a long time at the Alabama Historical Commission and reviewed hundreds of projects, thousands of projects. And a standard way that we generally would approve the closing in of a porch is to do it with glass and louvers, because then it's still read like a porch. Sometimes it wasn't even glass and louvers, it was just louvers and then the door and whatever needed to be in it, so that it it still appeared to be a porch rather than, and it just looks a little better. I can think of an apartment building on Court Street that was once group homes for children, that they closed in the porches in this way. Actually, the back porch of the Alabama Historical Commission, although the apartment building on Court Street is about the same period as this, and the Historical Commission building is from the 19th century, so not. But it too, glass, and then the shutters over the glass. And if you wanted to approach, if you've done the inside so well, having this look not well designed, like you've done with the rest of your building, just sort of makes the whole rest of the property look lower as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and again, I can appreciate that. We're still struggling with the fact that there's a lot of things that could potentially be done to the property, but, you know, there's going to have to be some compromises on a building of this age and of this condition. You know, we've tried to go above and beyond where we can on the property, but this is just one of those areas that, you know, unfortunately, we just tried to make the best out of what we had to work with. There's an area, you know, you've got an entry and a laundry room area behind that we just can't really expose. It needs to be
You know
covered.
what you could do? You could not involve any changes to the interior. You could close both of those openings with brick. You've painted the brick that's there. Any brick that you put up there will be able to be painted and fit in, and all of these discussions would go away. You leave what's back, the door stays, the window stays, and you find a mason to come in there and take out the brick around the arch, put the brick in. You've got your door, your two windows, and you suddenly have a much more handsome property.
I
don't think that would be cost prohibitive, but that's just me.
So one of the things that we are balancing is availability of contractors. I think earlier in the discussion there was some commentary about the availability of any decent masons or finding somebody. It's a problem.
It is a problem.
And I'd love to. There's a lot of things I would love to do to this property, but again, we've tried to make so many improvements to this property.
Yeah.
This is just one of those areas that, unfortunately, like I said, we feel very strongly that we've tried to make the best of what we have there to work with, and I'm just not.
My whole reputation as the queen of brief meetings is on the rocks. We have been talking about this for 40 minutes. Just briefly, what are your plans for the opening that's the second story opening?
So again, the idea was to match, to leave that alone. It's going to be painted. We're not planning on making any changes to that.
You're not going to change the window?
No, that's not. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave that one in place. and just paint it to match. I know, again, it's one of those issues where unlimited time, unlimited budget, unlimited resources, we'd love to do some different things, but unfortunately, we just don't have all those.
All right. Well, this has just been a discussion, and since it hasn't been advertised, there's no need to make a motion?
Oh, okay.
There is not, since it sounds like there's nothing to confirm. Now, I guess the question I have, because my legal notice is, my deadline for November was yesterday. So if I need to advertise this, I need to know what I'm advertising. And the question to you is, based on what you've been saying, it sounds like what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So I would like to ask the board's indulgence on this. Again, I know we're getting to know each other, but I've got pictures here I'd be happy to show the board afterwards from the interior and you know, some of the improvements that have been made. This is just one of those items that, unfortunately, we just tried to make the best of a bad situation over. We've got to get the unit finished. You know, we've got contractors availability issues. We've got material availability issues. We're just too far into the project at this point to be making, you know, substantial changes.
All right.
Am I the only person that doesn't believe that filling in those openings with brick would be substantial changes?
Well, I don't agree with you, so we can duke that out later.
Yeah, I knew you wouldn't, because you like that ill-proportioned arch that comes up within 6 or 8 inches of the eave. I know that, or the fascia.
See.
We're all different.
We're all different.
We are all different. All right.
I knew
Well,
that
I guess, let me put this discussion this way. If your application will reflect as built, and this body has determined that they're not real happy with that, then that kicks it back into violation territory, which means we take you to court.
Well, I would ask the board to reconsider, again, we viewed this as a maintenance item.
We don't. You changed
well,
the windows.
I understand.
Sir, may I speak?
Absolutely.
All right, we've been listening to this for now 50 minutes. This is what I hear. I hear we had a problem with the trees, which because you didn't know about the board. I understand that. The trees are a dead issue. But once you found out about the trees, you found out about the board, and you knew that these items do need to come through this board. Am I correct?
No.
Why not?
Well, again, as I previously
You
stated,
worked on the exterior of the house. This is about the exterior of the house. If you had any issues, it seems like you should have took it
You
to
called me
Christie.
about the roof.
We talked about the
after
roof.
the meeting.
You changed the proportion of the windows. You changed the location of they slid down the wall. You've moved them around. You've used different materials. How is this not part of the exterior of the house?
well, ma'am, we have a difference of opinion on that. So,
I don't think so.
well, again, with your indulgence, I'd like to go through and
My
explain.
indulgence has been surpassed right now, so.
Okay. Well, you've asked some specific questions. I'm happy to give you specific answers.
I think you're using and abusing what you think is maintenance and not maintenance to work with your narrative.
I don't see it that way.
He didn't see the replacing of the windows as needing to come to the board because he saw it, they're in bad shape, it's a maintenance item. But he changed the design.
But they weren't put in the same spot. You
Yeah.
shifted them. And when you do a shift, there you go.
Well, ma'am, those were 6 inches out of alignment.
And I understand that, but if you would have gone to us, like, before you did all this, we could have discussed all this before it was built. And we've been here, you've known we've been here.
Well, and again, I explained to you, we view this, just like if a window breaks or a door breaks, my understanding is that you can replace that as long as you're matching it something that's similar. And that was our opinion of what we were doing. It was not an intention to try and, bypass the board. It's not any more complicated than that.
I mean, certainly, Katie, I think that your idea and my idea of something similar is probably different from a large number of the general public's idea of what is similar. Those aren't similar to me either, but I can see where he would have thought that.
Okay.
Madam Chair, you say you wouldn't be okay with the infill of brick.
No.
What would you be okay with?
I would be okay with what's there, which I don't like, or a refilling of the opening in a more traditional way, i.e. with louvers.
So we got brick, we got louvers.
Stepped back from the, rather than so flush, it needs to be stepped back a little bit so you get a shadow line. I understand David is a better designer than I, and he always has a better idea about how to do it to make it look right, but look right sometimes isn't historic.
You have any thoughts, John?
Yeah, I have a couple thoughts. I would take out the two small windows on the first floor, and I'd leave the door as is, and leave the jalousie window as is, and paint it all the same color.
That's agreeable. Just remove the two windows and put the siding and paint it.
So you're saying take out the windows, leave the door, paint it all the same color?
Yeah. But I'll remind everybody, I'm one of 8.
Yeah.
We're missing one, so one of 8.
Well, now 7.
That's what we're trying to get to, something that the majority could agree to.
I'm gonna be walking my.
I'm in
I
agreement.
got some nods, John.
I mean, I haven't been by the building in some time, and when things come up in this area, I like to go eyeball it, so at some point, and I hadn't even thought about, just remove the window, leave the door. I mean,
We're agreeable to that.
Might be, of course, I don't have a problem
Well, I
with
hate it
bricking
because it
either,
would make
but.
it would make it such a dead space.
Well, the second floor to me is not an issue because it's there. I mean, it was there in 19 whatever when I moved into the neighborhood. That hadn't been changed. Now, we apparently have a disagreement about what is maintenance and what is change. I believe it is change. Let's move past that and figure out to see if we can hammer out something that everybody can.
So I would encourage everybody to look at the other side of the house. There's one door in the center of the other side of the house.
Okay.
On the front.
Okay.
And it looks great.
Well, I can't really see that on the pictures that we've got.
Oh, he's been on Google Earth again.
Sorry, I've been Googling down here.
Mr. Tech Man. Okay.
I'm in agreement with John. I think that removing the windows and just painting it all the same color. I want to get some clarification though. So the areas that are around the windows, they're going to be painted the same color as the building?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Have you got that Google picture up still?
Yes, ma'am. I'm pulling it up right now. Get my little man down here.
Modern technology, something.
Go one more down. It's hard to see, but.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, just painted, just kind of disappeared.
Yes, it does look better.
Is that a one-story then?
Mm-hmm. I just want that little side to go away. On that side. Go away.
I agree with that.
Yeah, they cleaned all that out. So that was
I think we'd all go along with that.
Great.
So you need to send me something in writing stating that that is your petition.
Yeah, so
To place it on the November agenda.
Just to
and-
recap, we're going to remove the two small windows. We'll put in solid pieces of siding to match what's there, and we will paint it to match the exterior of the building. Do I have that correct?
Yep.
I'll have it
Do you
over-
want someone here at the November meeting to present that?
I'm okay. No.
I think we're okay with not.
Okay.
It can be on the agenda, but we.
Send me something in writing so I can, so
Oh.
I'm not putting words in your mouth.
I'll have it to you tomorrow.
And we'll
Wait.
run it, and I'll put it on the agenda, and it'll be kind of an affirmation of this discussion.
One last question. Would it be acceptable to the board for us to actually implement that change at this time?
You gotta wait until it's been actually approved,
Yeah.
wouldn't you? I mean, then you're in violation after the fact again.
Again, I mean, that it would be a proceed at your own risk in the event that they all bump their heads or win the lottery and quit the board, and I start with a new board next month. I mean, I don't know.
Isn't
They might
Megaball
have pooled
tonight?
their money to buy tickets. What?
I think Megaball is being drawn tonight. I don't have any tickets, so I don't care.
Before you run off, next month's meeting's November 14th, and she hasn't adjourned it yet. I was going to tell you about the book.
Hold on, you gotta wait.
Wait a minute, no.
Thank you all for
All
your
right,
time.
we have nice, Christy, thank you for these nice.
Thank you.
Books.
Jeremy got we beefed up our manual, so I decided that everybody needed to get it, and so Paula and I could keep track of who got what when. I've made a file. We've got a document called Board Packets Who Got What When. That's literally what it's called, so, because we couldn't remember what bits and pieces we'd given to people along the way.
Now you can go. Katie's in trouble.